We all know social media is incredibly important in connecting with new fans and your current fans. But what do you post? What can you do to make that connection? We get asked that all the time and we think about it all the time. So in this episode, we have our super duper insane social content idea list. Let's get to it.
You're listening
to the CD Baby
CD Baby
DIY
Musician
Hey there, and welcome to episode number 336 of the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast, where on today's episode, we have a massive idea list of social media content ideas for you. It's our insane social content idea list. Insane. You know, think about the guy in the late night TV commercials. Insane. We have that for you today. My name is Kevin Bruner. Joining me is Chris Robley. Chris, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm making a lot of music this week. I had a practice last night with my friend Jeff. We're learning ridiculous amounts of cover songs. And then my other friend Greg is putting me to work accompanying him as he plays Quebecois fiddle tunes, which I don't expect you to know anything about, but they have this really annoying habit of throwing extra beats into these dance tunes. So you think it's like a normal melody and suddenly this measures in 5. Oh, that measures in 7. Like,
how irritating. How rude.
Keeps me on my toes. I think like this is supposed to be dance music. How do the dancers know? But clearly it's just in their tradition. They know.
Oh, well, that's good. At least they know.
They know.
They know. Well, excellent. Well, yeah, lots going on. I just got back from recording in Canada, and we have the DIY musician VIP experience happening in Nashville. By the time you're hearing this, it could be days away, and you can still get tickets at the door, or you can get tickets online, DIYmusiciancon.com. But it's going to be an amazing event. You can still get a ticket. Oh, there it's on screen if you're watching the video version of this podcast. Yeah, Chris will be there. I'll be there. It's going to be a blast. Really great stuff happening. And we've got the open mic happening Thursday night. We've got so many great sessions on Thursday and Friday. We have a lovely happy hour with art at the Artist Growth HQ in Nashville on Friday. Then Tom Jackson's live performance makeover happening on Saturday. If you are in Nashville or anywhere near Nashville, get there. You won't want to miss it.
I just want to say on Friday, I'll be interviewing one of my favorite people and one of my absolute favorite songwriters of all time. So I'm pretty excited.
That's right. Mary Gaucher is going to be there.
Yep.
And
you're like, I've interviewed her 3 times. That's old hat for me. But for me, I've just
not interviewed her before.
I've never like interviewed her.
I thought you did. I thought you had.
No, we've chatted. But
she's lovely. We talked to her at Folk Alliance this past year. Yeah, so check that out, DIYmusiciancon.com. If you're anywhere near Nashville and can get to Nashville, do it. It'll be a highlight of your year. And what else, Chris? We actually have a big announcement in our next episode. And it's not an advertising campaign. It's not a product launch. It's not an event. It's not a coupon code. We're not teasing a big announcement to be a coupon code for $5 off. We actually, this is legit. This is a legit big announcement. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while or have just tuned in recently, you're going to want to hear this next one.
Which should be, by the time this airs, somewhere around a week later.
Yeah. It's gonna be a big one. So yeah, check that out. Also, Chris and I have been doing some artist strategy sessions and things like that. If you're interested, hit us up on Instagram. My handle's on the screen. Chris's handle's on the screen. I'm at K Bruner. Chris is at Chris Robley. And we've been learning a lot. It's been fun to get one-on-one with artists and really dive into their specific releases or needs and concerns. We talk on this podcast a lot about things that, you know, we've experienced or artists we've talked to, but it's been interesting to really try and apply some of these things to very specific cases and help artists along the way eye-opening, wouldn't you say, Chris?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, so for me, the most fascinating aspect of this endeavor for us, of sort of artist coaching, music marketing, mentorship, however you want to call it, ad strategy, shaping, is that no two artists are the same. Like, I know that's an easy thing to say, but of all the various people who have, worked with us, they're all completely different places. There's some brand new artists who have a lot of talent, but who don't know the first thing about sort of formally beginning to put music out and to reach an audience. We've got people who are on the opposite end of the spectrum who've been putting out a lot of music, but they just want to like dial in a few things about their ads and everything in between. There's people who are really diligent and willing to work and make a lot of content. There's people where you feel like you kind of have to encourage them, inspire them, sort of check in to make sure they're doing the work. So yeah, it's a hard thing to templatize, I guess, is what I'm saying on our end.
Yeah, that's what's been fascinating. We talk a lot on the podcast, and a lot of the content we've created is, I think, right on target and very helpful. But everybody is different, like you said, and applying that to your unique story presents extra challenges or different takes or different directions. So that's been fun and fascinating. So yeah, again, I'm at K Bruner, KBREUNER. Chris is at Chris Robley. Hit us up on Instagram and TikTok at those places. And all right, actually, this episode came out of one of those such conversations where helping an artist and trying to figure out how to kind of get consistent on social media, or what, trying to find a groove, what to do, what direction to go. And I just wrote this gigantic social media idea list. And so we're going to dive in it today. After that, we have a call and some emails and all that. So it's going to be a good episode. And I didn't even count how many things are on this list, Chris.
It's got to be more than 30.
At
Maybe
least
it's around 30.
It might be around 30 or 40. I don't know. It's tough to see. So let's just dive in. So what did we call it? Our insane. Oh,
insane. Go ahead. No, I just had a few caveats real quick.
Okay.
So these are clearly a long checklist of insane ideas that some of them are probably going to hit you and you'd be like, that's stupid. I'm never going to do that. That's fine. Other ones you might be like, oh, that's cool. I'll copy that. And then there'll be ones where you can sort of tweak them to your own sensibilities or whatever. So this is just rapid fire so that you can kind of maybe take a few of these ideas. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that part of what leads to success on social media is consistency and a kind of consistent brand. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend you take down all 30 or 40 ideas and then do them all like
in a row.
Find the ones that you feel inspired to do, and then kind of see how many times and how many different ways you can do that thing. So see if some of these could be easily turned into like a series that gives you a consistent brand.
Yeah. And here is my caveat is that some of these are very specific or might only be specific to one platform. Some of them are more general, and you'll figure that out as we go. They're not intended to be necessarily this very specific thing. It's really intended for you to go, oh yeah, I have seen people doing that and I've totally forgotten. I meant to try that. Or yeah, let me try that thing and maybe it'll work. Some of it will work. Some of it won't. These platforms change constantly. And so that's another thing to keep in mind. And honestly, I think I just remembered another one that's not on this list. I might have to add while we're talking.
Just lead with it so you don't forget.
Okay. Yeah, I will. So, but I don't know if it's one that you lead with.
Okay.
So here is our insane social content idea list. And use it to generate ideas, try things. And if you're trying things and off the list, please let us know how it goes. All right. Number one, they're not in any particular order, and I'm not going to use numbers because I didn't number them on my page and I'll forget what number we're at. So first up, if you're fill in the blank, then I wrote this song for you. The video where you perform a song, like just the hook, but at the beginning you say, if you were this type of person, I wrote this song for you. Those videos perform well, typically.
This is the one for like a year and a half now. You've been begging me to try, and for some reason, I'm terrified to do this. It feels.
I don't know why, because if I could sing
so
and write
direct
songs by myself, I'd do it all day long.
Yeah, it feels so direct and kind of out of character for me that, but I should, I guess. I keep saying I have no excuse, and then I keep making excuses.
Well, here's the thing. Another caveat that for this list is, one, you need to push yourself. I'm speaking to everyone, not just you, Chris. You got to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Two, you got to put yourself in the shoes of the person scrolling, because there's ways we like to be communicated to. And that may be different than how we feel comfortable typically communicating. However, that does not mean it won't work, if that made sense. Like, for example, I know for a lot of artists, saying, if you're this type of person, I wrote a song for you, could feel salesy, could feel very direct, could feel very like, hey, you, I did this for you. And that may be not your personality. However, the people on the other side respond to that. And there's things that we respond to that maybe, if we're honest, yeah, I respond to that. It feels sort of out of character for me to do that, but it gets a response out of me. So maybe I should try it.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things on this list, and social media in general, it has that aspect to it, that there's things that work and triggers that work psychologically on people, or just what trends are working. I don't mean like the trends that people are manufacturing, but like how people communicate morphs over time. So,
yeah. Well, the next one on the list is one of my favorites: writing and production process, kind of behind the scenes or education about what your writing and production process is. I love these videos. When friends or acquaintances of mine share like, here's how to play the guitar lick from my song, or here's how I came up with this rhyme, whatever it is. Or maybe it's like, here's the compressor I used on my vocals, or the type of reverb. Any of that stuff I love. And I realized that this idea might have a kind of limited reach if you're only targeting existing fans who are going to be interested in how you made a song that you're about to put out or that you've already put out. And so one way I think that you could get around that is to think about the similarities in your writing or in your production to artists that have influenced you, and then do a study of that trick or that technique or whatever in a few other songs. And, it could be how the Beatles used this melodic thing with a descending bass line, and now here's how I did that in my song. Or, here's the use of plate reverb on vocals in a cool history of songs, and no, I put that on my song. So I love these videos. These tend to be what Instagram serves up. I don't know, 25% of my feed is like this stuff.
Yeah, I feel like this stuff works best after the release. For example, I had some footage of us in the studio really trying to figure out the bridge to this song, and I almost posted it before the album came out. I'm like, it's meaningless. They don't know the end product yet. So let me hold on to that. Let me post it after they've enjoyed the end product, and then those things make more sense for your fans. So I love using those things after the album is out. That's why I tell artists, don't blow everything from the studio before it comes out, because there's no context for your fans. So save a lot of that stuff. And I think a lot of that is great material when you have new releases, the weeks after. All right. The next one. This is one that I don't get. And every time I see it, I'm like, what the hell? Why does this work? The singing your song in the car. I don't know why it works so much. I've analyzed it on so many artists, different feeds and channels, but singing in your car, it can even have the vocals there. It doesn't have to be an instrumental.
Yeah. To clarify, sing along to your recording. Like, it doesn't have to be you performing live. It's like,
not driving down the street playing guitar and sing. Yeah, you're singing to the recording in the car. For whatever reason, it works. I don't know why.
Well, I think what works about it is it's the opposite of a sort of manicured experience. It's like you're not on a stage with mood lights and smoke machines and stuff. So you're in your car, and people join you mid-journey. They're just traveling along with you. Sometimes the crappy sound is actually endearing.
Yeah, for some reason, I think it's that everyone drives a car, or most people drive a car, and probably drive down the road singing to their favorite songs. And maybe there's some sort of relatability there, but that's one that it's just always cracks me up that it works. I don't find myself drawn to it. So that's one of those situations as an artist where I would look at it and go, I don't feel the need to do that, but it's working, so I should try it. So that's another one. Singing your song in the car. All right, next up, how it started versus how it's going. Those are always fun. Those can be humorous, they can be serious. You know, there's a lot of ways you can go with that. I think it's a great way of drawing people into your story. And I think as an artist, it's also a great way for you to reflect and realize, hey, I have grown, I have gotten further, and here's proof.
Well, one thing I like about that is people can take it in two directions. One is like the embarrassing past that you'd be mortified to share. It's like an old picture of you in 7th grade, and now look at you, you're so cool on stage. So it's more of like a celebration of your growth. But then the other thing can be true. Sometimes it's funny when the past was the glorious thing, and that's like how it's going, and it's failure or like disappointment and frustrating challenges. So
yeah, actually, that made me laugh because there was a tour that we did. There was the biggest tour we did as a headliner, and like the first month of shows were amazing, sold out. It was like we're on top of the world. You know, you get down to the 80th, 90th show, and you're like, 12 people are there. You're like, what happened? Like,
that's the opposite of this.
This momentum wasn't, we kind of burned out fast. What happened? Yeah, so either way, any direction, those can be funny, they can be serious, but they're good ones. They're always pretty engaging. The next up is your story so far. Like it's kind of similar to what we're just saying, how it started, versus how it's going, but kind of reflecting and telling your story up to the point of where you're at. And I think that's one thing that, you know, having worked on multiple artist bios recently, and I'm just as guilty. We're very poor at telling that story and updating that story. A lot of times we have bios that are 4 or 5 years old on our websites and Spotify and all these places, but getting better at just like creating that story and being able to tell a new version of it that gets you up to where you're at. And that could be video, that could be whatever.
Yeah, I was saying it could be a highlight reel, a photo montage, could be you speaking to the camera and telling the story. But as we always say, remember, it's not the whole story. It's like the details of whatever story you want to tell right now. And if that's only about your latest album or how you learned an instrument, you know, there's lots of stories to tell. So just tell that one story.
And I think it's important for you as an artist to get good at telling a story, because I'm not saying make stuff up completely, but you need to know when exaggeration is good and fun, when it adds entertainment value and helps people understand the experience of being an artist. All right, next up, sneak peek of your new song. This can happen a whole bunch of different ways, but you could use it as sort of a way to build your email list. You can use it as just you're throwing it on social. Here's the song. All sorts of ways you can use that, but just a sneak peek of your new song. Is it the demo version, a live version? What is it?
For all of the above, demos, live versions, lots of different recording versions. Go listen to our episode about building anticipation for your release, because we talk a lot about many of those examples.
Yeah, and a sneak peek, you know, doesn't have to be the final product. It could be that you're, you know, including people along the way in the process. And the sneak peek is, I just wrote this song. What do you think? I just wrote this chorus. Should I finish this song? And then bringing fans along the way. Or it could be, we just got the mix back tonight at this time. Join me live and I'm going to play it for you. You know, all sorts of different ideas there.
And as with everything, when you ask a question online, you don't always have to obey the answer. If you say, should I finish this? And everyone says, no, it sucks, you're still allowed to finish the song.
And comment back, I think you suck. So, all right. Behind the lyrics, the next one, like the story behind the lyrics. And this doesn't have to be the whole song. It could be a line. It could be anything.
An image, a reference, something interesting about the rhyme scheme. Yeah, it's a lot of ways. And also remember that if you have your music or if you have your lyrics on Music's Match, then Instagram and Facebook can pull the lyrics into content as well. So
yeah, that's a good tip, because I don't think we have anything else on here. Well, we do. We have something else further on down with lyrics, but yeah, I think also you don't have to be super literal. If it's like a very specific situation you wrote about, but people can take it in a general sense as well, you don't have to reveal the very specific, maybe sensitive situation. Just, but talking about the song or the inspiration behind the lyrics, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, this song means this.
And I'm laughing because it also doesn't have to be earnest and serious. I'm thinking about someone explaining like the lyrics to that Justin Bieber song that just goes baby, 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 oh baby, baby, baby. Like there's not much to explain there, but it would be funny to watch someone actually try as if they're really deep.
Yeah, by the time I got to the third baby, I was really like in this groove, this mode of like, this is how I was feeling in my heart. Yes. And it's funny. This is something that even major label artists sometimes really suck at. If you've ever listened to that podcast, Song Exploder, oftentimes I'm very disappointed with how poor these artists that are very established talk about their music.
Mhm.
Or like you find out like Weezer, he's like, our songs don't really mean anything. I just put these lines in he usually
A
a spreadsheet, and then he just pulls by syllable and throws it together. Whatever. Like, don't tell me that. Make up a better story. I mean, on one hand, I'm like, oh, okay. That was cool to hear that. But on the other hand, I'm like,
yeah, he's just an idea factory.
Yeah. All right. The next one, a day in the life. But I put in parentheses time lapse. So these can be fun. Like I envision like, I've mentioned on the podcast multiple times, I work with Melody Ryan. I know whenever she plays gigs, she loads up this sound system, then she has to unload the sound system. And I just always, when I think of this one, picture like a time lapse of her like pulling all the things, throwing in her car, then the car takes off. Obviously, someone would have to come back, get the phone. Then the car pulls in, she unloads everything at the gig, like that kind of stuff. Like, oh, you wanted to be a musician? This is what it's like. It could be fun. It could be humorous. It could be impressive. It could be all sorts of things.
I think this one's interesting, particularly in this like current moment where we have super short attention spans. So we expect everything to be very brief. My iPad keeps falling. So we expect everything to be quick and brief, but at the same time, we love learning things and seeing things unfold and like processes. So what a great combination of just take a really long process and time lapse it so it's 15 seconds. And that could be setting up your drums. It could be, setting up the whole stage, packing your car, whatever, going to the studio and setting up mics. I like this one.
I like it a lot too, because like you said, it moves quickly. So I feel like it's easier to keep, people feel like the payoff's going to happen faster. Like if it's like walking out to your car, putting a speaker, I'm like, oh my gosh, please hurry up or just move on. But the time lapse, I'm always a sucker for time lapse. When they show buildings being built like by time lapse,
amazing.
I can't not watch. So yeah, like a process that's happening, that could be part of your day. That's interesting. Yeah, try that out. The next one we have is what inspires you post. This could be all sorts of different things. It could be photos. It could be video of you talking. It could be sharing a track of another artist, but just thinking about content around what inspires you. What inspires you to write? Is it situations? Like, are you just going to talk about like, hey, this happened when this kind of stuff happens, I really get in songwriting mode, or this happened and it made me write a song, or I've really been listening to these artists.
And I think the what inspires you to do such and such is the really important piece of that, because obviously you want most of this content to reflect back on your gigs, your recordings, your process, your songwriting process or whatever. So yeah, just having the content reflect back on your music in a way where you're like, oh, I'll talk about my musical inspiration or the reason that the moment on stage that inspires me so much to keep going out on the road, even though it's a sacrifice, it's difficult. So people feel included, I guess.
Yeah, I like how you expanded that. And that was the whole point of this list, to not be super specific on everything. So it's like I was thinking about the songwriting process or that artistic expression, but performing live, yeah, what inspires you to keep going? Like I mentioned in the keynote from the DIY musician conference last summer that we played this house show, and this fan said, I need to tell you that this song of yours got me through one of the darkest points of my life. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, that's inspiration as an artist. When somebody says something like that to you, to me, that was so those kind of things. Yeah. What
Yeah.
inspires you? Next up, tutorials and how-tos. And ideally, again, around your music or something that leads back to your music. This isn't necessarily like, hey, I've got a wood shop hobby on the side that I'm going to, unless you're building like amp cabinets or something, that could be cool.
I saw one of those today, actually. A guy took an old crappy amp and made this beautiful wooden sculpted cabinet for it.
Yeah, so stuff like that that leads back into your musical expression that just doesn't feel like some random thing down your feed. But if there's something related to music that you do very well, that you're an expert, whether you're the person in the band that books all the gigs, and you could do a how-to on that, or you're really amazing engineer, or you're a guitar technician or something that's related to your musical experience, doing some tutorials and how-tos. Other artists will be interested. Your fans, it's kind of like a behind the scenes, feeling like they get to know how the whole machine works.
Mhm.
Those are all fun.
I think one last thing to say about this is that if you're a younger artist, you probably have no problem thinking of it in this terms. But if you're middle to older age, you might think of how-tos and tutorials as sort of exhaustive explanations. It's like how to write a hit song. It's like, oh my God, do you have 16 hours? Like,
Don't do
so
that.
in this new world, it's basically, how to do this one thing in the hook or in the chorus, like this one interval, how to use this one melodic interval, or how to use this one kind of compression on a snare drum. Like, get very, very specific. And I think that will be better for the viewer and also make it easier for you to think about how to make tutorials.
Yeah. All right. Next up, kind of a similar vein of what you just were talking about, showing off your workspace in your studio. Like, hey, this is where the magic happens. A lot of band practice rooms, they can be kind of vibey at times. And it's like, hey, that song you loved was written right here on these instruments in this room. This is where it happened.
And sometimes one of the trends I know is really big now is pairing a video of your workspace or your process or studio with like those meme audios of like the guy that's like, I don't have any hobbies. This is this is my passion. And then there's the clip of David Bowie talking about, pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone or whatever. So there's always those sort of inspirational things you could use if all you have is video and you don't have yourself talking about it.
Yeah, but it's always interesting to see where bands rehearse and what they're doing. I know we get feedback from stuff like that. All right, next up, completely different direction. Run a competition. This can be just a fun little quick competition, or it could be something that you use that marketing platform we have here at cdbabyshow.co, where, hey, everybody who does this will be entered, follows me on Spotify will be entered to win this, like a merch pack or something like that, or whatever you want.
That went in a different place. I thought you were going to say that competition could either be really fun or it could be a battle to the death or, something really awful. Preferably your competitions are always fun.
Yes, but it also could be a competition that just stays on social as well. Like the person with the best comment gets, I'll send you a t-shirt, It could be like a caption this, which I don't know if that made that. I think it did. Yeah, it's there. I see it on there. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
So yeah, run a competition. Next one. ask fans to suggest songs you should cover. So this is just a simple video. Hey, you've been liking the cover songs. What do you want to hear me play? What song do you want to hear my version of? That's all you have to say.
Yeah, I love this idea. In execution, it can be terrifying because I've done things like this. And then what you have is what a comment section of 50 people requesting something. And inevitably you'll then feel like you have homework you won't pass in because you'll never learn all 50 of those songs. So, hopefully everyone is aware that these are suggestions and you're going to go with your favorite one and not, disappoint people.
And someone's always going to have the jackass comment like Freebird or something.
True. That is true.
Which I never know. I still don't understand to this day why that became a thing.
Because of the monster guitar solos at the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they go on forever.
They do.
They go on forever. All right. Next up, recommend other artists' music and tag those artists. So if you are in a specific city, which I'm assuming you're in some specific place, but if you are playing in a certain scene, like what are other artists from the scene? Recommend them to your fans, tag those artists. Maybe they'll reshare it. Maybe there'll be some collaboration opportunities. But just the idea being that it's not just all about you, it's about the whole musical experience. It's like, hey, here's some other bands you should check out. Then it becomes your content isn't just about salesy content. It becomes about the experience of music they like that you make, and they might find other artists that are in the same vein or that you recommend and all that.
Yeah, and I think this one could very easily overlap with some ideas we've already shared, but like your inspiration. So if you can talk about another artist's music who you absolutely love and you think everyone should know, but maybe they're a little bit undersung, but they have some influence on your own music, like all the better, because then you're kind of checking off a few items on the list at once.
Yeah. All right, that kind of leads into this next one. Make a Spotify playlist and share it on social. The thing I like about this is you can take it a number of ways. There's so many different themes it could be about. It could be a playlist, depending on how big your catalog is. It could be a playlist. Like, for example, I thought about making some content like every guitar solo I've ever played that's available.
Ooh, that'd be good.
And I thought about making a video of that where it was just like cut just the guitar solos of all the songs that I have played on, because not every Small Town Poet song has a guitar solo. In fact, most of them don't. So it wouldn't be that massive. Then there's Hello Morning, and there's a couple other tracks I have out there. But so it can have a theme, or it's a way to bring in your influences. Like here's a playlist that has my music and the vibe I think it all fits into. So it could be like related artists or artists that you feel like you want your fans to think of when they think of you, or when they think of those artists, how you want them to think about how you fit into the genre landscape. It could be a number of things, but I just think it's an opportunity to help tell a story of, your music. Don't just go get a bunch of top 40 hits and then throw your tracks in there and expect people to listen to it. But like make it something that curated experience that includes your music in some way. Or if, like I said, if you got a big enough catalog, it could be fun with your fans in a way to get them listening more if you create a playlist and post it and drive engagement around it.
Yeah. Let's see what's next up. Play a cover song, and let's add that you don't have to play the whole song. Could be just the chorus.
Yeah, man. There's this artist on TikTok, Kelsey Carter. She just did 2 covers where when it comes down her feet, it's usually just the hook or part of the verse leading up to the hook. Crying by Aerosmith and Alone by Heart. Man, she just nails it. And whenever it comes down my feet, I just let it go on repeat.
Huh.
It's just so good.
I'll have to write that down. What's her name?
Kelsey Carter. I think
Okay.
it's with a K. You can think strategically. We've done lots about cover songs, but use cover songs. You know, it's funny. I think why I stopped thinking is like I posted on my own personal Instagram a video. It was a while ago. One of the first I made when I started making videos about like artist strategy stuff. It was about how to pick a cover song or why you should do cover songs. I can't remember the exact topic. It's the only time someone like did a response video to me on TikTok. And basically it was the artist that was like, I'm a musical genius. I will never play a cover song. I'm sorry. It was so smug and funny that I'm like, this is the best response ever.
Oh my God. Especially because that is the exact person that when we recorded our episode, it's like, this is for you, incorrect person who thinks you're a genius, but actually would be way better off doing a cover once in a while.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I need to go dig that up because I'm like, at first I'm like, this person has to be joking, but they weren't. The way they said it was just so pretentious. It was funny. Yes, do cover songs, people. They're songs people know. Do your own artistic version of it. It's an amazing way to draw a connection to fans. That artist I just mentioned, Kelsey Carter, didn't need to do those songs. Her career is blowing up. She's on tour with Billy Idol right now. And those have helped elevate her even more and probably extended her fan reach, especially on social media. Do cover songs.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What's
Next?
next? Live photos from shows. What do you mean by this one?
Yeah, just live photos.
Just a photo of a show with a nice caption. Oh, and we should also refer back to your advice that you give, which is sometimes it's appropriate to timestamp the photo with like a, hey, this is me last night in Detroit at this venue. It was really fun. But sometimes it's better to tell more of a universal story of like, this is what it feels like to be on stage. That applies to everyone and not just people who were at that show.
Yeah, yes. I think that's an excellent point, and why I want it on the list, because a lot of people will be like, well, I'm not playing shows right now. So I'm not doing a lot of things right now, but doesn't mean I'm not posting it on social media. But there's several things here that I think this is important. One, exactly like what you said, artists tend to do photo dumps when they play a show and miss a huge storytelling opportunity. One, to tell piece by piece, more at a micro level of what's happening in that moment and get creative around that. Two, nobody knows what your tour schedule is. Nobody. Maybe the people that plan to come to your show, but even if they saw you or follow you online, people are barely paying attention to anything. So when you post 10 live show pictures over the course of 10 days, they assume you're on tour and it looks really good. And strategically, it'll help you get more gigs because as I've been working with more artists directly and talking about booking gigs, that comes up. Like I go to their feed and I'm not seeing any shows. Are they playing gigs? Or I see this one image. Was anybody there? So getting strategic with how you use live photos to tell a story of your artistic experience, even if you're not playing a lot, but if you want to be playing or just use it as, because there's a lot of emotion in live photos. I think that's what's key about them as well. Use them, even if it's from a tour 2 years ago, throw them out there. They're interesting.
Yeah. So then that leads to the other thing, live concert footage. So get people to shoot video, make sure you're shooting video of your concerts. If the room is packed and super excited, have the person go to the back of the room so you look really cool. If there's half empty or, not too many people there, get the photographer or the videographer to get right up to the front of stage or even on the stage.
And even getting in the crowd, like near the front, so it feels like you're in the energy, getting up close. I meant to do this comparison for a piece of content. We did this event in London, a CD Baby event, and there was a decent amount of people there, but no one was up near the front of the stage. And I randomly took a picture, like in the back of the room, trying to get a sense for how many people were there. And it was the typical crappy picture that most people take from the back of the room, and it looks like it doesn't really translate what it really feels like in this room. It looks like nobody's here. And then I went up to the front of the stage, and I shot it vertically, and I got right in the band's face. So all you see, feeling the entire screen, is like his face, his hair, and part of his guitar, and he's just rocking out. I'm like, it was night and day. one picture made it look like it was an energy, a room that had no energy with nobody in it. The other one felt like an amazing rock show. And all it was how I framed the picture and
Just a
how
little.
willing I was to get up close to the artist. And I even, you know, gave it to them and they posted on social because I'm like, it came out so great. And it was just a random club. And yeah,
Hmm.
you can use those to your advantage. And you don't have to have the whole
Proximity and
song, the
framing.
whole concert. Yeah, you don't have to have the whole concert, the whole song. Get a moment, just like a moment of people rocking it. Like one of them was like that I had was the bass player and the lead singer who also played guitar were like rocking out together while I played a solo. I had like 10 seconds of that. Looked amazing. It made me want to go see the band again.
Yeah, the next thing is live stream. And this is one that I'm interested in sort of like doing a little bit more research on again a few years after the pandemic began when live streaming was everything. I'm really curious what the impact on live streaming has been with such an emphasis on short form vertical video. But all that to say, a live stream doesn't have to be a 4-hour Twitch concert. It doesn't even have to be an hour Facebook thing. You could literally go live and play one song and see how it goes. That is a piece of content that if it works and looks good, you can archive it. You can chop it down to use in other ways. So don't be afraid to go live.
Yeah, that has been something that has dropped off drastically. Like I had on the list and I'm like, can't remember the last time I opened social media and I saw an artist live streaming, where for a while, that's all I saw. Yeah, I think get in, get out. I would say maybe have 2 songs planned because it takes people a minute for it to populate in their feeds to know that you're live. Just start playing, like go live, play a song, have like a couple prepared statements, don't go on and on, hit the next song, and then just say, thanks for joining me, peace out. You don't need to sit there awkwardly and talk to people. If there's engagement, fine, but then it's archived and it gets shared again, especially depending on what platform you're using.
Yeah, what's up next? Lyric snippets. And you said like inspirational quotes. So how is this different from talking about your lyrics?
This would be like an image that just has like a line from your song.
Oh, like a Jack Handy, deep thoughts
Yeah,
kind of thing.
but he's being goofy, but yes.
Okay.
Don't you get those?
I do.
Does Instagram just think I need inspiration? But those things, in fact, you go in Canva to make stuff, and there's a whole genre of design for inspirational
Mhm.
quotes and things. But yeah, just a cool line from your song or a couple lines from your song in like using the carousel version on Instagram. Because if you don't know this, if you post a carousel, meaning there's more than one image, you can have up to 10 images. For content, it's nice if there's those images all connect in a visual design sense, and but they don't always have to. But every time you post something that way, Instagram will keep showing that post to all your followers until it's led with every single image, or at least a handful of them. If you put 10, I don't think it's going to show it 10 times, but
I'm laughing again because just like with an earlier example, you don't have to take this super seriously. Like I'm remembering last summer, I took a bunch of Werner Herzog quotes and put them on pictures as if they were inspirational, but they're all really bleak and dark. So if you have dark lyrics that are just horribly depressing, like put it to a nice smiling dog next to a sunset or something.
yeah, you can have fun with it. But
No.
yeah, if you've got song, like especially if you're an artist that's known for their lyrics or that's something that your fans appreciate about you, yeah, sometimes just posting a couple lines, those depending on the platform can get a lot of shares and interaction. All right, next up, my top 5 list, like give advice. We actually have this series that we started on CD Baby's YouTube channel. It's called My Top 5, and all it is artists sharing advice on specific things that they're good at as it relates to music.
Yeah.
So if they're good at live streaming, they give advice on how to live stream. If they're good at booking shows, that, or if they what have some of the other topics been?
Oh, songwriting, home music production, mental health on the road, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like this one too, but I mean, it's similar to a how-to instructional type thing, but I think having my top 5 as a framing kind of gives you a sense of what topics you'd be qualified to cover and how you might be able to do it in an entertaining way.
Yep. All right. Share a music moment that changed you. What's something that like at this moment I knew I was going to play music, or I heard that album and that changed me musically, or I knew I had to do this. Share that moment.
Yeah, like the tingles in your body, like
Yeah.
conversion type moment.
Yeah. Next up, jackass moment or embarrassing moment, or even maybe just a moment from the road. Um, you said mental health, and for some reason, I thought of like how to eat healthy on the road because man, eating on the road is the worst. It's so
Mhm.
easy to eat garbage and get fat
Yeah.
and feel gross. But the jackass moment or embarrassing moment, jackass moment could be like you being funny and goofy, just doing something silly as a group. The embarrassing moment, you can share something that happened, like I don't know, on the road. It feels like there's lots of embarrassing moments that happen.
Also, we're working with an artist client who's a fairly young artist who's putting out their first collection of songs, of like sort of properly produced songs, but they also have these like demo recordings of songs they wrote when they were, I don't know, 12 and really just picking up the guitar. And I was like, you should share those. And it's okay if they're terrible. They're probably terrible. You were 12 and you just started. But if you're in on the joke and you're sharing them because it's like a mortified type moment, people will love that. Like if you're making fun of yourself, I think
Yeah.
embarrassing stuff can really go far.
Yeah. Next up, ask a question or have a poll. Those always get a lot of engagement. And it could be serious, it could be funny. You do with it what you want, but that's something. Next up, respond to a comment. This is pretty popular on TikTok because there's a feature where you can put the comment on screen and then create a video to it. Those seem to do well. That's another thing that is an easy content piece. If you're like feeling stuck, just go look at the comments off stuff you've posted recently. Is there something funny or interesting, or someone ask a question that you can respond to? Do it that way.
Next one is ask people to join your email list. What a
Yeah.
simple thing to do that we always forget, and make sure you have a good reason why they should give you their email. What are they
Yeah.
going to get? What should they expect?
Yep. Next up, reshare old content and comment on it. This is going to be different than something that's coming up. But when I say old content, I mean like older stuff, not something from last week. Meaning like, hey, here's something from our tour 2 years ago. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. Or this was one of the best nights of our life on the road, and here it is. Blah blah blah.
Is Throwback Thursday still a thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's kind of that vibe.
Yeah, kind of that vibe that you're just except it's content that you've already posted, just like repurposing it. So that's the key. It's not Throwback Thursday could be a lot of times it's just, oh, I found this old photo. I haven't posted it yet. I'm going to post it and call it that Throwback Thursday.
I'm curious what you mean by this next tip. Share content you think your fans would like, as opposed to all this other idea that we've been giving that your fans will hate.
Like, yeah. share like finding something that you're into that kind of expands about like who you are as an artist, that I'm really into these guitar pedal videos. Check this out. If you're wondering what I'm doing all day, this is what I'm doing. I'm obsessing over these. Stuff like that.
I see, like your own enthusiasms and stuff.
Yeah, like what are you looking at that's interesting to you, that's, that you think your fans might be interested to know about or might be interested in following. That one artist we're talking about really likes cooking. And so it could be a connection to like, hey, I love you. You may not know this about me, but I love cooking. This is my favorite cooking Instagram feed. It's just a story point. Lets us know who you are. All right. Next up, say thank you. Just say thank you.
So simple.
Just, yeah, like if some big events have happened, or I'm just thinking I'm so grateful for all your support. Couldn't do without you. Just wanted to say thanks. We kind of touched on this one. I said, what inspires you to create? We kind of touched on that one, so we'll keep moving. Review an album song by an artist you like. I mean, this is more, we talked about sharing some content like an artist you may like or talking about it, but if they've got something new, like do an actual review of it. Like break it down. What do you think? All that. That can be fun. It can be a good conversation starter. You can make it funny and interesting, or you can take it real serious. There's lots you could do.
This next one is wild, crazy, or memorable show stories, which are always my favorite. There's the guy who put his leg through the wall.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Early DIY musician podcast days. There's my story of having to wait until like 1:30 a.m. before the venue owner would give us our drink tickets because he wanted to ensure that we actually played the show. So much horror on the road. That's entertaining.
It is. There was oh man. You weren't at the show where Henry got hit over the head by the guitar and his
I saw the video you made.
Yeah, like stuff like that. You're just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. That's one of the things I loved about touring. Some people, it makes them crazy. It's like every day is an adventure. Something's gonna happen. Yes. All right. Next up, short form music video, not the whole song. That's where the our friends over at Rotor Videos are great. You can just get some visuals. It could be you in it. It could be just some. They have a lot of stock footage, but yeah, just drop some interesting music, short form music videos.
Caption this is the next idea. I love Caption this. It's so fun.
Yeah. I think everyone's familiar with that. It's a lot of fun. Usually gets engagement.
And then the slightly newer twist on that of like wrong answers only.
Yes.
That's always great.
Yes. All right. Next up, this is different than what I said before. Recycle recent high performing posts, where in the past I was talking about like digging back to the archives and finding something and commenting about it. But if you had a post that performed really well last week, depending on what it is or what platform you might repost it, but like a lot of times people share to their Instagram feed, but they don't post it to their stories. Or the great thing about stories is you can post the same thing there multiple times. So if it's performing well, keep posting it and use the functionality to link in there as well. So yeah, think about, is there something that performed well? Well, let me get people's eyeballs on it again, because not everybody's looking at your feed all day long. So most people probably missed it. So if there's something that's performing well, look at ways to keep it in front of people more than once.
Next up's a lyric video. Do you mean a complete lyric video?
Yeah, just like lyric video.
Cool.
Make a lyric video, post it. Fan covering your song or encourage it. These are great. If you've got fans out there covering your songs, you should be sharing that content. Not only does that make them feel seen, and it's also fun. So do it. Yeah. And if you've got fans, be sure you Google yourself every once in a while or look on YouTube. You might find stuff there that you didn't know is there. People covering your songs.
That's a good point, because they don't always know to tag you. So yeah, I didn't even think about that. It's a good point.
Or like for us, our band name is Small Town Poets. Small town is one word. Oftentimes they spell it as 3 words, small and town being separate. So I do a bunch of different searches, and sometimes I'll search by our bigger performing songs. And yeah, I found a lot of stuff.
The next one, I don't know how much we need to say about it. I feel like we've talked about it a ton in the past year, but duets. Yep. Duets for your fans that you do with other artists, or you can create something for the purposes of other people collaborating with you.
Yep. And those can be fun. Another one, open verse challenge. This could be for a song that's out or one that's coming up. In fact, I talked about it before on the podcast with Walk Off the Earth, where they did an open verse challenge. And I realized to that point, because the song was not out, the only thing anyone had heard was the chorus. And so fans could go in any direction. But then they just did it again for a song that is out. And, fans can go in any direction, but I have a feeling fans probably went in the direction of the verse that they had heard, but
a little more guardrails for that one.
Yeah. Next up, use this sound post. Like if you've got certain clip of music that you've seeded on one of the platforms, specifically TikTok or Instagram, just letting people know to use the sound, and those those seem to pop up in my feed a lot.
So I have an objection, not to this one entirely, but what seems to pop up a lot on my feed is these artists who are like, it's like really cringe and desperate sounding. It's like, use this sound so if enough people do it, I can make money, or like,
Yeah, don't
use
do
this sound
that.
so that it's always like some objective attached to it. I'm like, no, how about like use this sound because it would really work with like your nature video, like a purpose and a mood or a vibe, like some usefulness to it. I don't give a shit how much you do or don't make. I don't care whether 100,000 people or no one used your sound on Instagram. Like, but why is that? It must be effective because I keep seeing them.
Well, I don't know if people are using the song, but I get those kind of posts all the time, like save this sound and the fifth person in your share list will fall madly in love with you. That kind of
Oh, it's like a chain mail,
yeah, a chain letter.
Instagram chain letter.
Yeah, yeah, I see those kind of things all the time. It's funny because it's like I didn't even click on any of them. But randomly one day I got that and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And I didn't just scroll on by, and then suddenly my feed got filled with them. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't touch it. I barely looked at it. Instagram, all right? I didn't say that this is my favorite thing ever."
Well, if
Um,
any of our listeners have done that technique on the desperation side and it's really worked for you, then good for you. What do we know? But it always just strikes me as a bad look.
but
Anyways,
the thing that I've found that's the where I've seen it that it was interesting is, you know, I love uh post instrumental rock, or what is it called? Yeah.
instrumental post rock.
Instrumental post rock. I don't know why I said post instrumental rock. Instrumental post rock. I love that stuff. And I saw one pop up recently where it was an artist who they're basically letting them know that you could use this sound. I like this sound works great over relaxing imageries. It was something like that. I'm like, you know what? That was an okay way to do it. It wasn't,
Yeah, well, that's giving me the information I need. It's
yeah,
about me. I might have a use for it.
yeah, exactly. But I don't care. Like, I don't feel motivated to randomly post sounds a million times because someone might financially benefit.
Right.
I don't care.
The next thing on your list, you have visualization video.
Yeah, you know, some of those videos where it just creates a visualization of the music. It's not a lyric video. It's just kind of short snippet that has interesting visuals. It's not going to be your main go-to, but that's something you can throw in the mix every once in a while. And a lot of the platforms that you might have your music on might already generate that for you for free.
Yeah. Well, the next idea you put on here is share your failures. And we mentioned earlier about sharing embarrassments, but I think there's somewhat of a difference. And like, this reminds me of that tweet I mentioned a couple podcasts ago where I think she wrote for the New York Times. You know, some professional writer did a book reading and no one showed up. And she took a picture of it and shared it, you know, sort of despondent, saying, "This is what failure looks like." She was crying all night. And then all these people sort of came to her support and shared similar stories. And then out of that failure was some new sense of purpose and community. It was this beautiful moment. But um, I think getting vulnerable about those moments where you really question what the path you've chosen can be some of your best content.
I've seen this done well. I have a feeling that everybody knows somebody, especially on Facebook, that's like a chronic oversharer.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, there's some things that you just don't need to tell me. It's not why I'm here. I'm not here to know, like, to feel like, I don't know.
when one of those people where after you read enough of their comments, you're like, it's you.
Yeah, the problem is
It's
you.
the problem is you. Like,
Yeah, the problem is you. So, yeah, but I do think that these can be great, and it's not like, yes, I hope I fail a lot so I have this high performing content. Um, but realizing that that's a part of the story too, and I think that it adds context for folks that I think as artists in social media in general, people put on such a uh, a good performance and paint a rosy picture of life. But in a music career, I think the general population thinks that it's easier than it is, and that, oh, it's just you had some good gigs, you're making tons of money, or whatever. But I think those things help kind of provide context of the challenges you face, and why it's important that people support you. Again, you don't want to be a chronic overshare, but and every little detail that went wrong in your day is not a failure. It's just your day. But
Yeah.
like being broken down on the side of the road on tour, that feels that can feel like failure often. Or like that book signing thing that you mentioned. That one was really good because I saw that as well.
Next up is childhood photos. So we mentioned the like how it started, how it's going thing. This could be a aspect of that, but when I added this to the list, I just mean like a photo of you as a kid that somehow speaks to the journey or some foundational experience you had that maybe led you to making music.
Yeah.
Plus, everyone just likes to see what you look like as a kid.
Yeah.
And then takeovers was another thing I was thinking of. This could either be you taking over someone else's account, in which case you now have an opportunity to share any of your high performing stuff that you've ever made to a completely new audience. Or vice versa, if you're out of ideas and need a week off, you could sort of hand the keys to your social accounts over to someone you trust to do a takeover of your stuff.
Yeah. Next up, we got a couple more. Everyday activity. This has become very popular. And so this is like you're doing a very normal everyday activity, and it's like somebody's sitting there having a conversation with you or like you're listening to them while they do something. It's very popular. I've seen it with people like putting on makeup, and like there's this woman I follow that does financial advice. She did one like this the other day, and it's weird how these work. Just like the car, it's weird how these work. Like she's not talking about doing her makeup. She's doing it and talking about, now this is what you need to know, and like kind of doing her thing. And it just feels like you're hanging out with them, having those real casual conversations. I think that's what people like about it. Like I've seen it with people like making dinner. I've seen people doing other like normal everyday things, but talking about the topic at hand. So,
well, Alice Howe, who I've been working with, did a makeup video where what she's talking about is how to make an album, and it's really funny. It's like 35 simple steps to making and releasing your own album, and like half of them are real things that spoke to some of the challenges along the way, like getting signed, getting dropped from that label during COVID, like, but all the while she's applying makeup so that there's this extra element of, I don't know if it's suspense exactly, but there's almost like the time lapse thing that you're watching a process unfold. And by the end, well, there's her face done up, her hair's ready, she's ready to go. And you see the building of that while she's telling you this funny story. So I feel like that's partially why it works.
Yeah. Maybe it is like the idea that we're watching an activity happen that has a start and finish. So visually, we're engaged over something that may not have visual engagement to go with it, like the conversation of 35 steps to making an album.
Mm-hmm.
You could, but like I said, I've seen that a lot with makeup. I've seen a lot with cooking. I've seen it with a few other items, like someone making a drink or something like that. So yeah, that's an idea. The last one on the list, this was that came to mind at the top. It's like the short looping video, like 5 seconds, where you might be doing something, and you just have info over the top. So for example, I did this for my channel where I was changing my guitar strings, and I'm just sitting there. You see my amps next to me. I'm just changing my guitar strings. That video loops, but over top, there was like a 5 tips for something, booking shows or whatever. I don't know what it was. And they just popped up over that looping video. There's all sorts of things that you can do with that. For Melody, I had her do 5 things uh, Melody said in the studio or something. It's like
Huh.
more toms,
Oh, I
more
saw that
kick
one. That
drum.
was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, more bass. I mean, it's just a looping video, and so yeah, those kind of things can be very engaging. And the nice thing with them is that if you keep the video short, people probably watch it multiple times. And we talked about that with the episode that you did with Winborn. Like they have to engage with all the content. They probably let the video roll a couple times, and so it drives up views and engagement, all that.
Mhm.
All right,
That was an insane list.
I'm sure we
Insanely
forgot some
long.
stuff, but that should, if you've been stuck on social media going, what on earth do I do? Hopefully that along the way helped trigger some ideas, helped you think, oh yeah, I could try this or that.
To refer back to the Facebook person that we were making fun of, if you're still stuck after this episode, it's you.
It's
The
you.
problem is you. You now have 40 ideas to try.
Yeah, you just don't want to do it. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it is hard. It is challenging to know where to start, and how to throw in some variety. But I would say when you try some of these things, if it doesn't work and it's like, nah, this idea just doesn't work for me, move on. But if something hits, stay there for a while, keep doing it. Just because it worked doesn't mean you have to, sometimes people go, oh, that worked. And they move on to the next thing. Like, well, it worked. So keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep trying it. Keep doing variations of it. So there you have it. All right.
Sweet.
If we missed something, you can call our listener line at 360-524-2209, or you can email us at podcast@cdbabypodcast.com. And let's jump right into some emails. And then we've got a call. So do a couple emails, hit a call. That'll be good. All right. Hi, Kevin and Chris. Thanks as always for the podcast. I look forward to every episode. I wanted to offer something additional to the conversation about AI and how it could be useful for DIY musicians. I recently remastered and digitally released a formerly CD-only album by my old band, Dog Legs and Feet. For the remaster, I needed new cover art because we didn't have a digital file of the old art. I had a really specific image in mind. The album is called Bottom, after the Shakespeare character Nick Bottom. He's a DIY performer who gets cursed with a head of a donkey. And it's a live album, so I wanted a donkey-headed guy playing guitar on stage. I've been playing around with generative AI art software, so I decided to create a cover image that way. It took a long time, a lot of false starts to come to the right ballpark. And he wrote a blog post where he shared a lot of the intermediate images. He says most of them look terrible. But interestingly, I started working on this in 2021 when the software was a lot less sophisticated. By late 2022, when we had everything just about ready to distribute, I was able to use Stable Diffusion to produce some high quality images that captured a lot of different takes on donkey-headed guy plays guitar on stage. When I got one that had the right feel, I did some additional tweaking using what's called an in-painting mask, and it finally landed in a place that looked like what I wanted. I just had to crop it and add text overlay. It was something I definitely couldn't have drawn myself, and it matches the emotional tone of the album pretty well, I think. He sent me the final product. I think with 100,000 songs distributed every day, it only makes sense that DIY artists are going to use tools like this to generate cover art. I know there are some discussions about whether AI takes business away from humans, but this is not a case where I was going to commission this same image from a person. This was a labor of love project with no budget. If I hadn't used AI, I would have just done something else for free and it wouldn't have fit as well. Just my 2 cents to the AI conversation. Thanks for all you do. Cheers, Jeremy Edwards.
I completely agree with that last point, where if it's a single or if it's an older release, you're trying to sort of re-put out, you weren't going to hire a designer anyways. So this is exactly the thing that solves. And in fact, I was playing around with Midjourney over the weekend for an album cover that's going to be like a digital only EP. So it's not a thing where I would be paying a human to begin with. So I might as well have some technical assistance.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Next up, make sure I've got, okay. Hey guys, I love the podcast and have been listening to it forever. I've got an unmasked for suggestion. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I saw masked. I was, hey guys, I love the podcast and have been listening to it forever. I've got an unasked for suggestion for you. Aim some of your episodes at schlubs like me. I'm 45 with a steady job and kids. I'm never going to take a gamble and try and become a professional indie musician, but I have enough disposable income to buy fair equipment and a bucket list item to put an album on Spotify. 5.6 million of the 8 million artists on Spotify haven't put up even 10 songs, according to the Climb podcast. Just imagine how many more of us pretenders are out there trying to get that far. Just imagine your job security. The more of us you inspire and shepherd along to make something and put it out. He said, I've listened to the podcast so long, there's never been a question that my imaginary album will obviously be released with CD Baby. Recording music is such an arcane black art. Us schlubs are intimidated and don't know where to start. We need more articles like this one written by an obviously handsome journalist. It's an article you wrote. It was the Ben Braden one where he recorded
on
the iPad. Yeah. We need more DIY punk rock. Grab what you get. Just do it. Just make something. Encouragement and advice. It doesn't matter how perfectly we record the sound. It's just going to be us schlubs singing in the first place, and only our poor wives will hear it. I know we're not as cool as up-and-coming actual musicians, and it might be a little depressing to focus on milking the schlubs. But there's something noble in helping regular people be creative, even if it does result in thousands of versions of Down on My Knees, Begging You Please lyrics. Anyway, keep up the great work on the podcast. I'll be listening, Mr. Schlub.
Mr. Schlub is a very funny writer.
Yeah.
Two thoughts. One, I thought we were speaking to the schlubs. Maybe not. Two, I think this is something you may have said in the last episode, but I think I don't think he's giving himself enough credit or enough validity. Like in our last episode, I think we were talking about how the greatest song may be written by a hobbyist who doesn't put it out, or does put it out and it sort of gets ignored because he doesn't do all the rest of the stuff to get it heard or whatever. Like the fact that age or for whatever reason you don't think you're going to have a huge audience, I don't think makes your art less valid. So maybe he knows that, but I just want to give more credit to the activity and the endeavor that you're doing. Even if you only ever put out one thing, it's worth something, even if only your wife hears it.
Yeah. I agree. That's why, it's hard because with music, I think one of the things I love about music is that it's so mysterious. You never know what's going to connect and when success is going to strike or what might work for you. And you can engineer a lot, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of mystery to it as well. So that's why I don't like, selling yourself short. And, maybe is just like, I'm just doing this for the heck of it. And, but that being said, I do like that. I was looking at that article that we did with Ben Braden, and I loved the approach of like, I just have an iPad. I'm going to make an album with this iPad, and it sounded great. Had a cool vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, the thing that I liked about that article, it was a big reminder of we live in an era where, especially in the creation process, you can have unlimited access to any tool, any sound, any plugin, anything you want. And there's some limits. There's some beauty in the creative process when you're forced to use just a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
And limit yourself. And that's what I liked about that Ben Braden article, because he's like, I'm just going to use what I can do on here and make it happen. And that can drive creativity. So anyway, I know that's not what his email was about, but
no, I completely agree. And I've been thinking about that a lot too. Just because otherwise you're always on this sort of holy grail search for more tones, more synth plugins, more whatever, instead of just making music. Like I'm sure the old Juno plugin you have is plenty good enough to make really cool music. You don't need 20 more cents.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. All right. Let's go to our call. We've got a call and then we got one last email. Oh, before we do that, the thing that came to mind when he was when I was reading that email, what was the stat recently that Spotify said how much of the content had 0 streams on the platform?
I can't remember what the percentage was, but it was shocking.
It was shocking how high. I'm like, these artists didn't even listen to it themselves?
To just make sure it's the correct audio?
They didn't send it to their mom at least? Or a family member didn't stream it? How can there be so many artists that have 0 streams? That to me is the shocking thing. Now if they said had less than 10 streams, I'd be like, all right, yeah, whatever.
But not
0?
one?
0. All right. Anyway, here we go. Here's a call from Jessica.
Hi, Kevin and Chris. This is Jessica Gerono. You said you wanted to hear more about why I had called with my question about you guys going into the studio. So an artist I already work with, his name is Dante Mazzetti. He did this kind of random live stream with a bunch of guys he didn't know, and they did a cover of Road to Nowhere, which ended up going viral. It's really cool. It's like Americana folk with trombone. And so a lot of people on the comments section have been asking where they can find it on Spotify or if it's on an album somewhere or whatever. So we thought it would be really cool to kind of track down those musicians, bring them into the studio, record an album, and try to bring everyone who interacted with those ads, like bring them along on the journey, you know, bring them into the studio via live stream, etc. So anyway, I'm always interested on how other people are handling their contracts and their split sheets. We actually are very involved in sync licensing, and you know, Dante has a bunch of big placements coming up in terms of that. And so you guys know, like with the music supervisors, you really need to make sure that all your ducks in a row, you know exactly, and have paperwork stating who, you know, who wrote what and who owns what. And so I'm just really interested to always hear what other people are doing. Your guys' session seems like kind of organic, though once you talked about it, I see that it was planned out and you did kind of pay people and make arrangements and all that kind of stuff. So, so yeah, that's just why I was interested. And I really appreciate all you guys do and for answering my question and being really transparent about stuff, which is really, really cool. So have a great one, and everybody keep going because big things can happen. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Jessica. If you recall, she was talking about, she had asked a question after we had been in the studio in Kansas City, and it had something to do with how we handled the players.
Right. Well, I wonder if Dante is going to be sort of the main singer, you know, sort of the lead singer, and this music is gonna, it's a Talking Heads cover, right? You know, if he's the artist, then it does seem like a situation where it's worth ironing out those details and either paying the people as studio musicians or figuring out what cut they may want. But if he's the artist, it seems like it's more of like hire them to come and make the recording sort of deal to me.
Yeah, and most people that play on records are used to that arrangement. Very rarely are they cut in on anything more. It can happen, but especially if you're hiring them to do a cover album or a cover song, they just want to get paid and get out. In most cases, it's usually low fuss, and they just want to make sure they get credited properly. So that's always good. Having it written in writing, like a little work for hire contract, isn't a bad idea. And then you can put the particulars on there, like have them spell the name the way they want it. So you have documentation of how they want their name listed and credited and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. And I checked out Dante's website. He's got a lot of good stuff going on. They have some good stuff.
I follow him on Instagram. I'm not sure if I've been to his website, but. And Jessica sounds like she lives in New York, in Brooklyn or something, because there's a siren going by, right?
Yes. I didn't see where he was located. where Dante's looking. I mean, Jessica could be anywhere. Who knows?
Anywhere that there are sirens. That's true.
True. There's definitely civilization nearby and somebody in distress.
And so, yep.
All right. Thank you for the call. We have one last email. Here we go. Hi, Kevin and Chris. Tobias here, formerly Trailhead, but I switched to my actual name, Tobias Panwitz, now. I just wanted to get back to you guys real quick about strategies of collecting email addresses. Mine is pretty straightforward. At the end of my show, before my last song, I'm telling the audience that I'd love to stay in contact with them in a personal way. Then I'm handing my email list on a notepad with a pen to someone in the audience and invite them to write down their email or just pass it on to their neighbor. I play pretty intimate shows, no security pit. I think he means like there's no space between the stage and where the people are, if you know what I mean. So I found it really effective to pass the list around with direct contact to the audience instead of just having it by my merch table and offering folks to come by and write down their email. I get way more email addresses by passing it around. Thanks as always for the fantastic show. Even with episodes that don't have tons of new info for me personally, I always find ideas and thoughts that inspire me to improve my strategies as an indie artist. So thank you both, Tobias. Yeah, this is one that's the email thing it shows is tricky. I know that there might be certain scenarios where I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. On a smaller intimate show, like a house concert or a small cafe, I'd probably be fine doing that. The bigger the venue gets, the less I'm likely to pass my list around that fear, one, that may not come back, or two, that people, I don't know, do inappropriate things with the names that are on the list. But I think in a small venue, a small show with a more refined audience, you're gonna be fine.
Listening rooms tend to be on decent behavior to begin with.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, that would just be my main thing. Just take care of fans, your audience's security of personal information. But in that kind of smaller environment, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
It is hard to get email names at shows.
One thing I've not tried is like the sign with the QR code kind of thing. I don't know how that would work for me.
Yeah. Actually, with Melody, she's got these cards that she printed up that has QR codes on them, and she puts them at all the tables, and
nobody uses them.
Not to the degree you would hope.
Maybe the trick is, hey, everyone sign up use the QR code during the show, and at the end I'll pick someone to get a free t-shirt.
That's probably it. There you go. We solved the problem.
There it is.
There it is.
And 2 people will sign up and I'll have to pick one of them.
So then you start paying $10 for 2 email addresses.
2 emails, yeah.
Hey, that might be what you need to do. Now, that's something that's definitely worth trying. Like, do it now. There's an incentive. What is the incentive? Not an incentive that happens a month from now. Like, hey, over the course of this month, I'm going to pick a random person and they're going to win an iPad. I mean, if it's an iPad, they might still do it. But yeah. Anyway. All right.
Or you could just lie and say that there's an iPad and then don't pick anyone because they'll never follow up and no one will know.
And they just assume they're going to lose anyway because people assume they're going to lose. So
don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I think that's the end.
That's our insane show.
Our insane show. Yes. Again, if you'd like to email the podcast, you can do so at podcast@cdbabypodcast.com. And we'd love to hear from you. Any ideas on social content? You know what? I'd love to hear social content that's working. So if it's working for you, share it. That's what we want to know. What's working for you? Because that's all that matters. What's working for you? And then a reminder, next episode, big announcement. You're going to want to hear it.
Insane
announcement. And I think that's going to do it, Chris. That's going to bring us to the end of this episode.
All right. Well, I'll see you in Nashville.
That's right. That's right. DIY Musician VIP experience. You still can get a ticket. between now and at the door, DIYmusiciancon.com. Get your ticket. We'll see you there.
See y'all.